Greetings and salutations, folks, and welcome back to Death Stranding, where we're going to be taking things a little bit slowly today. We're going to not do anything today, and I'm going to get into the reason why, but first let's toss on some music. We've unlocked a lot of music for the game, a lot of stuff from Low Roar, and the Silent Poets. Low Roar seems a little bit safe in regards to YouTube's algorithm, so let's toss that on. Let's toss that on repeat for now. I've been thinking a little bit lately about the capacity of which we as people consume media. Considering the entire concept of binge watching a television show. The concept of binge watching a television show didn't really arise until like streaming services, or at the very least the capacity for a person to watch an entire show in one day and have everything available to them to watch in that one moment came about. Because either you watched it when it was on, or you didn't, and that was it. That's why those prime TV hours were so important. And I feel at some level, I feel as though I binge video games. And by binge video games, I mean I just kind of like plow through them as more of like a roller coaster ride through the main events. But I sometimes lose sight of the peripherals. Now, consider like I played through Red Dead Redemption 2 on this channel, and for the most part, I just focused on the main quests. And while the side quests are themselves well written, I feel as though I got tired of playing Red Dead Redemption 2. Like, there's just much more than I actually wanted. Compare that to, say, Grand Theft Auto 5. As somebody who played through Grand Theft Auto 5, I did not participate in a lot of the sports in the game. I did not play tennis once at all, actually, now that I think about it. So, like, at some level, like, not every side mission is going to be required, but at the same time, I feel at some level I'm a little bit towards barreling through this game, rushing at times. And the more I think about it, the more I would say that this game wants to be appreciated, like a fine wine, taken slowly. I do not have fine wine. If I had a fine wine, I would use it to start my own video game discussion show where I got drunk on fine wine and talked about video games. But until then, I have something called Crispin Rosé Hard Cider. It has 5% alcohol by volume, and it was in an open can on my desk, unfinished from the previous night's affairs. So I'm going to finish off that glass. Cheers to you. Let's read some emails today. Today I'm going to try to read some emails. I have a lot of emails I haven't read, actually. Damn it. I shouldn't have done that. I've ruined everything. Can I, Okay, that sends me back to the beginning. I've read the first few emails. Are those emails that I've received and the specific days, like in real time that I've received them? Anyway, I'm going to read through some of these emails. I'm going to talk a little bit about Death Stranding. And I'm going to drink a little bit of this hard cider, which is about as hard as a beer, but it's the best I've gotten on short notice. First off, from Jake Wind. Our hard work is paying off. From the Wind Farm. Dear Sam, I wonder where you are right now. If it's somewhere powered by our wind farm. If anyone should be benefiting from our work, it's you. Until you brought us into the network, we could only provide power to a small region. Now we can send it to all the big cities and beyond. I'm still not 100% of the details, but basically transmitting it via the beach means we don't suffer any additional loss due to increased distances, so it can go as far as we need to. Good thing we kept the faith in the second expedition and kept this place properly maintained. You made our efforts worthwhile. We can't thank you enough. That's an interesting concept. The entire idea that, like, the chiral network uses the beach in order to power itself, which it makes me feel as though this game puts itself, like I recently played through Doom Eternal, and in Doom and Doom Eternal that they've recently made, Argent Energy is this kind of like power source that everybody's been using, that has been essentially stolen from hell. And it doesn't seem as though this chiral network might be too far off. Dear Sam, sorry you had to go to the trouble of chasing down that part for us, but believe me, you've done us a great service. Thanks to you, our chiral printer is finally up and running. Didn't think it would ever happen, if I'm honest, but it did, and now we don't have to rely on porters as much as before. We can make a lot of what we require with our printer. And if we need intel in the outside world, it's right there at our fingertips. On behalf of myself and everybody else here at the Distro Center, thanks. None of this would have been possible without you. Funny story, the other day I was using the network to read up on the word chiral and where it comes from. Turns out it's Greek. Means hand. Of course it means hand. Of course it means hand. Because the chiral crystals themselves reach up from the ground in the shape of a hand as well. Bet you didn't know that, did you? The text went on about how your right hand is a mirror image of your left, but only if you put your palms together, and if you point them away and lay one hand on top of the other. Well, that's chirality? That's how I understood it anyway. What it's got to do with the network, I'm not really sure. Something about routing communications through the beach, which is basically another world like ours, but not really. So when you force elements of the two into contact, that triggers a void out. Anyway, all I know is that while I hope you keep on doing what you do to bring us together, you'd best leave the dead out of it, you hear? Let's switch music. Let's go to Don't Be So Serious. And go to George Baton, Casualties of Twilight. Hey Sam, you really helped me out there. Thanks, man. And that book you brought me, it's actually a movie script. I mean, I knew that all along. Sorry if I didn't keep you updated. Anyway, it's an interesting movie from an interesting time, back when the world was divided, East versus West. The Cold War, they called it. The movie is called Casualties of Twilight, and it's about two lovers who are caught up in the ideologies of the global conflict, and about how they destroy the world in order to be together. It's just a short movie, but it's interesting from a psychological perspective. Some people actually saying it predicted the Death Stranding. I didn't think it get mixed up with consignment of cargo that'd be stolen by mules. I really panicked once I heard it was gone. So yeah, thanks for bringing it back. I really appreciate it. Let's see, we're going from June 28th to July 21st. So let's stop at July 5th. A weird glowing object in Capital Knot. Hey Sam, you heard the latest rumors out of Capital Knot City? People have been seeing some kind of weird glowing thing up on the rooftops near the isolation ward. Seems it's a Ka, the part of a human that doesn't turn into a BT. That's what people are... Wait, didn't Mama and Lochne talk about that, the Kaha? I forget what that was all about. That's what people keep saying. Apparently they were a common sight back in the old days, back before the Stranding. I mean, story goes that there were lost souls wandering around. One of my pals tried to take a close look, see what's what, but he couldn't find anything. I'm sure you could do better if you put your mind to it, though, right? Huh. Hey, Sam. Sounds like you're still showing us all how it's done. I've been making more and more deliveries myself, though, I'll have you know. The Oxy really helps me cope with the fear, so thanks for that. So he takes drugs to... Well, to be fair, yeah. I shouldn't discriminate... I shouldn't... discriminate is the wrong word, but I shouldn't look down on somebody who uses medicine in order to cope with reality. Because reality is itself something that is itself problematic. But don't go thinking I've got ice in my veins or anything. I still panic easy, and I still drop plenty of cargo when I do. Doubt I'm the only one, though. I found plenty of stuff that some other porters must have lost on a run. I try to do the right thing. Take what dropped cargo I can to the nearest post box. And leave weapons and gear in share lockers. Won't lie, sometimes I feel like saying fuck it and letting it lie. But what goes around comes around, right? I help someone recover lost cargo. Someone will do the same for me. That's how bridge links are formed, after all. Most of us will never be legends like you, no shame in that, but if we work together and make connections, well, we can at least make the world a better place, and that's where bridge links come in. Together we can accomplish so much more than we ever could on our own. And that's the truth. This is very much the truth. How are you doing, Sam? And how's your BB? Me, I'm a bit worried. That's why I'm writing you, actually. You see, I used to have a BB of my own back in the day. I'd jack in whenever I wanted on the run. Standard procedure and all that. Thing is, and this is just between you and I started to care about my BB. Yeah, I know, I went to all the briefings. It's just equipment. Don't empathize. Don't get attached. Yeah, well, easier said than done, especially when it gave me a like. You know, I thought my BB was just a piece of equipment, but then it started liking my Instagram posts. A piece of equipment can't do that, right? Equipment doesn't like being rocked either, or gets soothed by the sight of a spinning Audra deck. Check out your tips if you're not sure how to do stuff like that. My BB loved it when I took us swimming, when we just float in the water, but got real scared if we dove in or went under. Like a tool would give a shit about any of that. I bet your BB's the same, right? Reacts to things in ways that can't be explained. Man, I miss those days with the little guy. You'll take good care of your BB, won't you, Sam? What am I saying? I know you will. See, that is the question. At what point does society decide you needed to not empathize with the BB? At one point was it decided that BBs, I believe early on, Dead Man does tell you that the BB has a specific lifetime. Like, it only lasts for, a year before it must be retired. Which also leads to what are the problems of the BB program? Which I think were only kind of briefly mentioned earlier. Ever since you told me about my brother, I haven't been able to stop thinking about him. I want to make one thing clear, though. I don't blame you for what happened. Igor wouldn't either. I know that. I think I'm trying to do a Keanu Reeves impression. I don't think it's working. It's weird, though. We weren't all that close, and back when he was alive, I'd go weeks without thinking about him. But now, well, ain't that the way things always go? You still got that little keepsake of his. Sounds kind of stupid, but I've started thinking of it as like his alter ego or something. You know it was his dream to go west with the second expedition, right? He never made it, but his favorite toy does. It almost feels like it would make up for it. At least a little. You show the little guy the sights now. You hear? Lord knows I'll never get to see him. Which leads to the question, how did Igor in the first place get a hold of that specific BB? Dear Sam, how's it going? Still heading west? We're rooting for you. We were part of the second group, so we never got to speak with Amelie face to face. Caught the occasional holo message, but that was about it. Still, every little bit helped to keep us going. She's just like her mother. Tough. Clever. Easy on the eye, too. Oh my gosh. Won't lie and say I didn't notice, but what really resonated with us was that fire she carries. That conviction, same as Bridget. Any one of us would have laid down our lives in service to her vision. I suppose this is all a long-winded way of saying you ought to move on and meet her like we never got to. And when you do, tell her we're all still believers in the cause and in her. and her mother. You'll do that, won't you? Thank you, Jake Wynn, for telling me that you think my sister is hot. Hey, Sam. Can't tell you how good it was to see you coming over the water on that boat. First time we've welcomed so much as a turd in what must have been 2 years now. Folks were even saying everything east of Ground Zero must have been wiped out completely. The occasional message drifted in from HQ, but people? Not a one. We'd half given up on the Cupid ever being finished on the second expedition, the whole shebang, and then you show up with a working Cupid to boot, our knight in shining armor. Sorry, doesn't mean to sound like I'm not grateful. I am, more than you know. Every single person here was waiting for someone like you to come along, and there'll be more waiting west of here, a lot more. You'd best go find them. Another from William Lake. We made rounds of the local preppers when I first arrived here with Bridges 1. There should be some interviews floating around that the records team transcribed. Take a look if you get the chance. We were mainly sounding out the situation on the ground and trying to convince them to join the UCA, of course. But we already suspected that they weren't the type to follow the herd. Why else would they be out here? Still, we found the odd community-minded soul among them. Not all were holed up in shelters by choice. Some were running from something, others had just been born into the life. Getting the few we did to throw their lot in with the UCA was a pain in the ass, though. Didn't help that the chiral network wasn't up and running back then, either. All we could do was put the parts in place and promise they were going to work someday. And now they finally do, thanks to you. Could be the skeptics might finally come around now that we can show as well as tell. You keep up the good work, you hear? Get us all back on the grid. And one more before we take a break. Start talking a little bit more about Death Stranding. Thanks again, Sam, you really came through for us today. Now you can tell me to mind my business if you'd like, but I couldn't help but notice that you've been getting better delivery evaluations lately. Looks like you know what you stand to gain if you go the extra mile. Or do you? The Bridges evaluation system will see you properly rewarded for providing that extra bit of service to make people happy. Speaking of happy, I just remember the time you first came here after crossing Ground Zero. True, successfully delivering cargo to its destination is your job, first and foremost, but people are demanding. They don't want just their shit carried from A to B. They want a little bit more, you know, special treatment. Something that'll put a smile on their face. Hey, I get it. It's a lot more work for you tracking down lost cargo, returning items to their rightful owners, and it's not really a part of the job description either. But you better get used to it because standards are changing and people are only going to expect more from their porters. Anyway, it's usually worth your while. Going above and beyond is a good way to rack up plenty of likes, and hell, sometimes you end up doing it without even realizing you did. I'm serious. Next time you complete an order, take a closer look at your results. See if there isn't a symbol next to your likes which indicates that you got them for performing optional extras. You might be surprised. It may all seem like a hassle right now, Sam, but you can never have too many likes. Okay, let us take a moment. Relax. Everything is going to be okay. Have a little sip of this 5% hard cider. Now, in regards to the entire idea of consuming media and racing your way through Death Stranding, I feel as though Death Stranding is a game that paces itself. It goes out of its way to create the pace in which you are expected to travel from point A to point B. It knows, it's designed so well that it knows exactly what options you would generally have as you're moving from one knot to the next. Consider the entire idea, consider the area previously in which I went from one, I think it was the Lake Knot City, and then south to the distribution center south of Lake Knot City. When I was traveling down there for the first time, there were no roads. And then when I traveled back up to Lake Knot City and turned around, there were now roads as constructed by my fellow porters. I drove quite a while to get back to Lake Knot City, but once you get back, or the Southern Distribution Center, but once you get back to that distribution center south of Lake Knot City, then the terrain becomes rocky in both directions. As if, like, it's purposely placed there to stifle vehicle transportation. There are certain... when you drive to Mountain Knot City, when you go to Mountain Knot City the first time, the quest that they give you specifically has you carrying this antimatter bomb, which makes it so that you can't really drive there. It forces you into a pace. So when you're playing the game, you can try to race your way through. You can try to push yourself from one objective to the next. But you're going to miss out on things. You're going to miss out on other destinations that are not on the map, that are not primary locations. You're also going to probably wear down your equipment faster, put yourself in greater danger. There have been, like, most of the I take complete blame for every single vehicle I destroyed, because largely I was just forcing those vehicles over portions of the map that they probably shouldn't have been driven. I tend to largely ignore the weather map, even though it is kind enough to tell me where there are time falls. So to some regard, I do kind of race through. And I wonder if part of it is due to doing this as a YouTube series. Like, if I played it by myself without considering the length of an episode, would I walk slower? Would I try to do more optional objectives? Or would I spend that... Yeah, would I do all these extra activities? Would I savor the game? Like this 5% rosé. Or would I also be doing the same thing? Would I also be barreling through it? And I wonder if that's... At the same time, I wonder if that's my own personal appreciation or depreciation for the game mechanics itself. Like, how attached am I to the journey of Sam and his never-ending walk through America? Like, because at some point, there is part of the game that feels like work. There's part of the game that feels relaxing. There's part of the game that feels tense. There's part of the game that feels suspenseful. But at the same time, there's also part of the game that feels like work. And I feel like I realized that when I had to turn around, when I had to go all the way from Mountain Knot City back to Mama in just this last couple episodes. Like, that didn't necessarily feel like a journey, like an adventure. Although the climbing through the mountain was interesting, it felt... like work. It's kind of like, and that's the thing, this isn't something that I would say is specific for Death Stranding. This would be, I would say, for any game that has major backtracking. Consider Castlevania Symphony of the Night. It's one of my favorite games of all time. But that game does have some backtracking issues, especially if you don't know the game well enough. If you don't happen to remember where the double jump is required, or the mist is required, and you're always, and until you start unlocking portals, you're always kind of like walking across the whole castle. And even after you unlock portals, you still have to walk across a lot of the castle in order to get to where you need to go. And I wonder if it's less towards like my love for the mechanics and more towards my dislike of repetition. But for now, let's go back to the emails. I'm going to pour myself another of these hard ciders because I finished off this one. So hold on a second. So this one is called, is for also the Crispin. It's like a multi-pack I bought a while back. Crispin Prosecco hard cider. This one's only a 4.5%. Not quite as hard. A little bit softer. And let's go until July 14th. Ah, there's the Elder. You're still out there fighting the good fight, kiddo. I tip my hat to you for that, and for you bringing an old curmudgeon as medicine. I'm doing a whole lot better for it. Much obliged. So in exchange for signing a contract with Bridges, I get meds and supplies delivered to my doorstep? Humph, that's no different from the deal I had with Fragile Express. And while I may not have full use of this here network of yours, I can access the weather data and news I need to make life easier than before. All that without my having to join the USCA. So what incentive is there to do so? I'm not here to convince you to join the UCA, old man. That's between you and the UCA recruiter. 1 second while I adjust this coaster to avoid the demon that is condensation. My dear Sam Bridges, it is an honor to make your acquaintance. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Peter Englert, and after hearing so very much about you, all good, I hasten to add, I simply could not resist the urge to initiate a correspondence. My request is of such great import that I dare entrust it only to the man who delivers. My sister, bless her heart, has been feeling under the weather, and I fear there is only one thing that might restore the color to her cheeks. Pizza. I wonder if you might be so kind as to collect some from Lake Knot City and deliver it to our humble abode. I am more than aware of the gravity and urgency of your westward journey, but if you could find it in your heart to squeeze us in, I would be ever so grateful. Oh, and my dear sister is something of a ham lover. Please bear that in mind if you decide to oblige me. So I actually already did it. I already delivered the pizza for Peter, and I was wondering why I needed to even bother delivering pizza for him. But I guess that's what the story was. My dear Mr. Bridges, I must applaud you on a job exquisitely executed. I am given to understand that pizza in question arrived in impeccable condition. Marvelous! Alas, I must also apologize on behalf of my sister. She was asleep when you arrived, you see. As for myself, I was out and about attending to private matters that demanded my utmost attention, but I am on my way home as I write. I would have very much preferred to thank you face to face, but on this occasion you'll have to forgive me. A whole bunch of thumbs ups, thusly likes. So that's why when I delivered the pizza, nobody was there. I know it can't be easy out there on your own, Sam, but we need you to stay strong. I've started a few experiments with the Evo Devo unit you brought me. So far things are going pretty well. By the way, is the Evo Devo unit the automated delivery system? Because those have been crap. I'm not quite at the stage where I can perfectly recreate objects. Oh, or is that the printer? But I suspect that's only because the chiral network's coverage is still limited. The more places you bring online, the better my results, most likely. Anyway, I'll be submitting regular reports on my progress to bridges. Rest assured, I'll keep at it. Incidentally, I've taken an interest in the Audra deck lately. These days, people tend to associate them with BBs, or think of them as BT detectors, but they were originally designed as more all-purpose scanners for the detection of people and various objects. Seems they've undergone quite a few changes over the years. By all accounts, many of the original features were cut at some point. One such feature would allow users to project holograms, which would be pretty useful. And another would utilize chiral connections to reconstruct past data for present-day applications. I don't believe these features are lost forever, though. If we keep expanding the network, somebody's bound to take the initiative and create new and improved versions of them. Anyway, I've taken enough of your time, Sam. We should catch up in person one day. Alright, have a little bit sip of this Pear Secca. Hey Sam, how's that bullet gun working out for you? You put it to good use yet? Listen. I've come up with a few more ideas for new gadgets since we last spoke, and Chiral Network makes it so easy to share data. You can fabricate stuff pretty much anywhere. In fact, I might ask you to test them out for me sometime. It's in your interest, too. What with you maybe having to go up against mules and whatever crazies are out there. But if you do have to throw down, remember that mules used to be just like you. They were porters when the world went to hell. People trying to help people, and all that chaos and confusion would have been hailed as heroes if they hadn't gone batshit. That's what most people think, me included. Though I heard it might not be that simple. It might be that they started off as smugglers, and that's why they can navigate all kinds of hard country. Guys like that, well, something tells me they wouldn't be altruists at heart. Guess there's no way of knowing the truth of it now. Anyway, Sam, I doled out a few of those hematic grenades you brought me to some local porters, along with some blood bags. If they work as advertised, then our people might just be able to stand up to BTs if necessary. Could be a new beginning for the whole community. That is true. We haven't really heard any results from just the average citizen. It's Edgar Wright. Sam, that bot you brought us, it's a real piece of work. It takes everything into account, cargo type, terrain, and calculates the quickest route every time. And if it does happen to run into a BT, there's no void out to worry about. If we can teach it how mules operate, it might even be able to anticipate their movements and avoid them too. Which means all the risks in using human porters, the dangers you and yours face every day, well, they could be a thing of the past. Might not be a need for you to put your life on the line any longer. Time to start planning for the easy life, eh? But it is for the best. I wonder, leaving everything to the bots? Isn't that what led to drone syndrome and all that? Better to keep people involved in some respect, maybe. Same with cars. Back in the day, everyone was all about self-driving vehicles. But if you ask me, a human hand ought to be on the wheel, ought to always be on the wheel. Am I right? I would argue that a human hand either always has to be on the wheel, or never. Or at the very least, a person has to have the capacity to. Because I guess it all depends on how traffic works. Like if traffic works like Demolition Man, where it's just regular roads where the vehicles self-drive, that's one thing. But if we're talking about like the Total Recall remake, where like the traffic is less like a road and more like a series of elevators that happen to be moving rapidly next to each other, then that makes it incredibly dangerous if somebody decides to manually take the wheel. Thanks for delivering the delivery bot, Sam. I heard you were heading to the Timefall farm down the way. Don't know if you heard, but rumor has it they've been brewing beer, maybe even using Timefall to speed up the process. I'd sure like to have a taste if it's true, and if they join the Chiral Network, I'd be able to place an order with them, wouldn't I? Of course, you can't print beer. This is true on all accounts. So I'll have to rely on you again to get it here. Pity the bots won't be able to enjoy it with me. But hey, guess that's a privilege only humans can enjoy, am I right? Anyway, I'm counting on you. Also, the entire idea of robots not being able to drink beer, there is a webcomic you can read right now. It is titled questionable content in which it deals with humans and robots in a day-to-day life setting. And the robots are able to activate their own drunk EXE to simulate what it would be like to be drunk. So, yes, they can drink beer and get drunk as well in that comic. What kind of porter grades you getting what kind of porter grades are you getting these days, Sam? It can't be easy trying to stand out in all those categories. Cargo condition, cargo quantity, delivery volume, bridge links, all that stuff. Couldn't manage it myself. I'd throw my hands up in frustration. I've got one piece of advice for you. Focus on speed. That's the most important thing when it comes to making deliveries. After all, how to improve it, though? That's the question. You probably know this already, but in case you don't, there's one simple way you can improve your speed. Take the shortest route. Unless, that is, an area's infrastructure means that a longer, less direct route will get you there faster. Not so simple after all. You've probably got a feel for picking efficient routes already, though. Most porters with your experience ought to. By the way, if you're already feeling confident about how quickly you can make deliveries, why not try your hand at setting a premium delivery record? You might even enjoy it. Oh, and it's not just your clients who'll be happy if you up your delivery speed. Your body will too. As it grows stronger, you'll have more stamina, be able to hold your breath longer. All sorts of good stuff. Keep at it, Sam. You're going to be a top-ranked porter out there in no time. I just know it. Rebuild the roads? I see them delivery bots are on the prowl again. Guess that means the roads are getting better out there. Used to be the highways and byways, running all over back in the day. There was one, the Mother Road, some called it. There was one the folks used to follow all the way west, chasing their dreams. Rebuild the roads and you can rebuild the dream, is it? That old American classic. The belief that success and prosperity are within everyone's reach. Well, I may not be much for your UCA and your kids and your rock and roll and your plan to rebuild the country, but if you can finally make that one work, I'll raise a glass to you, that's for sure. Alex Weatherstone, the man with a terrible, terrible name. Because Alex Weatherstone runs the weather station. You know, I'm not even technically part of the core staff. I'm medical. I was posted here to keep an eye on our skeleton crew, make sure their heads stayed right, and somewhere along the line got roped into processing deliveries too. Anyway, before we became part of the chiral network, this place was a weather station on name alone. We were collecting meteorological... Okay, I've been talking too much, drinking too little. Hold on. We were collecting meteorological data, but only over a pathetically small area, and we weren't able to share it with anyone. Prior to the stranding, they had countless weather satellites circling the whole planet, watching every move the clouds made, measuring every twist and turn of the wind. With that much data, it was easy to create forecasts. But things are different for us. We don't have top-down view of the whole picture. But the Cupid and the network have provided us with the next best thing. Now that we can collate data from all over, we can generate more comprehensive models, which give us a better chance of accurately tracking fluctuation in chiral density. And not only that, we can send weather reports to every city, prepper shelter, and bridges facility on the network. Now we are really close to doing something useful. We owe you big time, Sam. You do. The Timefall Farmer. Dear Sam, another long day on the road, I'll wager. Well, I think that's like part British or part Australian. I really need to pick one or the other. Well, you know what Sue's mind, body and soul after a hard day's work. A delicious draught of... Yeah, I have no idea what that is anymore. Of Timefall Porter. We finally got to brewing up a batch of beer. You familiar with porter? It's an English ale that's been made since the 1700s. It was popular with the couriers who used to deliver loads up and down the Thames, hence the name. And the other part, well, I don't think I have to explain that. It's crafted with the finest, fastest growing wheat under the timefall. So, Mr. Legendary Porter, why not put your feet up and enjoy a tall glass of your namesake? And don't think this is the end of it. We'll be baking bread and cooking pizzas before you know it. Just you wait. Pizza and beer. Not a bad combination.
Sam, thank you as always. I sent you Timefall, Porter, the world's fastest brewed beer for Bridge's fastest runner. Hope it rides a welcome respite on a hard day. Should be waiting for you in your room. Enjoy.
That's my attempt at a Bane voice. Sam Bridges, I have a job for you, should you be interested. A pile of junk has accumulated near my shelter and needs to be disposed of. There's a problem, however, some of the aforementioned waste products may be contaminated by chiralium. Okay, so when I was at the junk dealer's place, I did notice there was a whole bunch of chiralium damaged goods, and then I ignored it. Which means that the only safe place in which to dispose of them is the crater lake to the south. Should be easy enough for Bridges men such as yourself, but it's up to you whether you want to take the job or not. It would certainly help me view you and your kind more favorably if you were to agree to help me, however. Sam, my man, a lot of love for you here in Port Knot City. Everybody's talking about how you hooked us up to the network and took out that BT. Makes me feel a little better knowing about how Igor went out, knowing that he was in the company of a real hero like yourself. By the way, I've been wondering, you've been using the utility pouches. They make it real easy to carry an extra blood bag or two, and you ought to know better than anyone how much BTs hate the stuff. In fact, if you've got a bag of red on you, I'd strongly recommend popping it in a pouch. Give it a try at least. I mean, what do you have to lose? Folks used to use all kinds of pouches, you know. Haven't seen much variety for a while now, but back in the day, porters would rock customized backpacks decked out with a dozen or more specialized pouches. Who knows, if you're lucky, you might even find someone to design one just for you. Could be the beginning of a virtuous circle. Why is virtuous in quotes? The more you succeed in bringing our people together, the more likely you'll turn up some of those old pouch designs, which in turn ought to help you in your work to get others on board. Good luck. Feeling tired? Wouldn't blame you. After all, you're not a machine. You need breaks and whatnot. Luckily for you, I know the perfect place. Some hot springs. A hop, skip, and a jump northeast of where the junk dealers hold up. The Crater Digestive Baths, as I believe they're called. Good for getting the bowels moving in case you're backed up. But the waters are also good for general aches and pains. Miraculously healing properties, apparently. Does wonders for stressed BB, even. Not one that's suffering from autotoxemia, though, obviously. Anyway, you should give it a try sometime. Yeah, alright. Sam, I have a delivery request for you. There's a prepper out there who's got a special talent. Calls herself a cosplayer. And she can apparently dress herself up to look like damn near anyone and anything. Okay, that sounds like an interesting idea for a character in any sort of video game and or TV show. Like imagine a character who's just called the cosplayer. Like, have like a Mission Impossible-esque story. And the cosplayer is the one who figures out the costumes. There's no one better when it comes to designing and making clothes and accessories, but she needs a new sewing kit to finish her current project. Would you find one and deliver it to her? I'm pretty sure she'd have something interesting to offer you in return. Thanks. Was that where Conan O'Brien was? Sam Bridges, maybe it's just my imagination. But ever since I signed a contract, I'd swear I've seen you at least a half dozen times here or there. Was that your hologram, perhaps? Surely it couldn't have been every time. Not when you came to see me bearing gifts. Nevertheless, it's hard to believe that there is only one of you running around, though it's equally hard to believe that so many others could resemble you so very much. Goodness, could have been a ghost or someone masquerading as you, perhaps. Oh dear, what have I gotten myself into? Well, you leave me no choice. Next time you come through, bring that Cupid of yours and make me an official member of the UCA. You're the only one doing that for people, right? Should prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that should prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're really you. Okay, that took way too much effort. Sam, I heard you deliver the samples we provided. Thanks for that. We really appreciate it. I know it's probably weird for you, me and her being separated and all. And I'm not going to pretend I was a stupid asshole about, well, everything. Anyway, I just wanted to say that we're grateful, and I just hope that stuff comes in handy one day. By the way, we've got a few more designs we're working on, so if you like the look of that kit, drop by our shelter for a gander. Hopefully the things we're working on will prove useful. If not to you, then to someone. See you around, Sam. Ah, the cosplayer. Okay. That otter hood I made you is pretty special. I know because I tested it out myself. By putting it on, you transform into an otter. And I'm not just talking about your appearance. You literally become one with the water. Did you notice that I even put a Bridges logo on it for you? That's proof that no one else has done anything like it. I'm so happy that I'm able to support your work. Us humans should strive to live in harmony with nature. We won't survive for long if we're always fighting against it. We need to go with nature's flow, surrender ourselves to the natural rhythms of the world. That's what I think anyway. That's why I got into cosplay. I wanted to lose myself in the character, let the character take over. Some people think it's just an excuse to wear fancy clothes, but they're missing the point. It's an art, the art of transformation. We should all embrace our place in the world. There was a time when I tried to stay apart from it, but after meeting my beloved, my eyes have been opened. And that's why I've decided I'm going to sign a contract with Bridges and see where that takes me. Groovy. I probably should wear my otter hood. I'll try to remember to do that next time. When I was younger, I was something of a professional host. I'd travel all over the country and speak at events, meet interesting people, and so on. In my own little way, I was helping to bring America together, too. I really believe that. Sure, I was scared of BTs, but I had a lot of Porter friends, so we used to travel together from city to city. They called me the Wandering Host. I remember the first time I was asked to take part in a cosplay event. I didn't really understand the concept at first, but that event opened my eyes and showed me how wonderful cosplay could be. Most people are skeptical, but it's something you can't understand unless you've experienced it for yourself. A total transformation into someone or something else. I was an instant convert, started running my own cosplay events, trying to get everyone to see how amazing it really is. It was at one of those events that I met my girl. Her costumes are incredible on a whole other level. It's not just her technique either. It's her spirit, her soul. She's transcended to a higher plane. Anyway, she's the one who made that otter hood. Maybe you've already noticed, but putting that on will pretty much turn you into an otter. That's sure to be useful at some point, right? Anyway, I want to share her passion with the whole world. That's why I persuaded her to hook up with the Chiral Network and join the UCA the next time you drop by. With my people's skills and her designs, we'll get the whole country on the cosplay train before you know it. Oh my gosh. You know, I was aiming for July 14th, but wow. How are you holding up, Sam? You must have walked more than 1,000 miles by now. I wonder if there's a way to track how much you've walked in this game. Try not to let it get to you. I'm sure it must be lonely work. Well, anyway, I want to get in touch and tell you that we got married. I know. Who gets married in this day and age, right? But through the Chiral Network, we got in touch with a priest and we said our vows, and that was it. Silly maybe, but it seems to have brought smiles to a few faces, so thanks for making it possible. We owe you more than we can say. Dear Sam, wonderful news, my daughter's getting married. Oh, though you've probably been wondering, we're not related at all. I've never been married, let alone had any kids. I took her in 5 or so years back after her parents died. She could barely speak a word of English. Her parents had been Japanese, but we managed in our own way. It's funny. Until the moment we met, I thought I was destined to live out my life all alone. But as soon as I laid my eyes on her, that changed. I knew in my heart that I had to protect her. Make sure no one ever hurt her, though I ended up doing that to myself by being too overprotective in the end. I've tried to make up for that. My daughter is leaving the nest at last, and I couldn't be happier for her. All I can do is pray and hope for the best. And I'd be awful grateful if you could look in on her and her husband from time to time, just to make sure they're doing okay. This is going to sound crazy, but you gotta believe me, Sam. So I was at the incinerator. They'd found a body near the way station and needed to get burned. Since we don't exactly have a team of corpse disposal guys on call, I was given the job. I've been outside more than the other guys lately, so it makes sense. Wasn't like I could say no. Somebody had to do it. Doesn't mean I wasn't scared shitless, though. I don't have dooms or anything, but you don't need special powers to know when a BT's caught your scent. And I could tell they weren't far behind. I just wanted to get the job done and come home, but then one of the fuckers popped out of nowhere and nearly gave me a heart attack. Pointless trivia. If you happen to know which classic film features a small child saying the line, "You almost gave me a heart attack," it is delivered terribly. Somewhere I make it into the incinerator without getting grabbed, and that's when things get real weird. I saw this glowing thing, this light, I guess. I wanted to take a closer look, but I wasn't about to take any chances. I had to get the hell out of there. I can't stop thinking about it now, though. You should check it out if you have a chance. You probably heard, but Middle Knot City was nuked about a year back. Civilian staff, everyone and everything gone, in the blink of an eye. They say it was a terrorist attack. Demons doing their thing, assholes. Fragile got caught up in the whole mess somehow, too, though I wasn't privy to the details. Long story short, they started screening deliveries a whole lot more thoroughly. Not that it made a difference. It was one tragedy after another. We lost half of South Knot City long after. Half's better than all, but a whole lot of people still died, and it shook the rest up pretty bad. They started wondering if joining the UCA wasn't the worst choice they ever made, and the more people said it out loud, the more paranoid they got. It festered and spread in that thinking, beyond the city even. Not that it takes much for your average prepper to buy in. You might think becoming part of a chiral network would have calmed things down a little bit. But we still don't have a handle on the terrorists. It could all fall apart at any moment. But if it does, we can't let it beat us. Even if everything we've built breaks down, we've got to do what we can to patch it up. That's all there is to it. Wow, that was a lot of reading in a short amount of time. Let's take another sip of this Parseka 4.5% supposedly hard beverage. And let's wrap up this discussion. I realize that at some level, I would like to play as many video games as possible. Which, it's an impossible dream to play all the video games, especially if I'm doing this for the YouTube channel. There are certain games that are simply too long, that would take way too long to complete. There are games with tons of side missions. There are games that are just really difficult, and there'd be a lot of time spent just making my way through it. There are games that have a lot of repetition to it. Consider the game Rebellion that I played on this channel, Star Wars Rebellion. That had a lot of cuts. Like, I might record for 2 hours and end up with 1 hour of footage. Assassin's Creed Odyssey had a lot of sequences where I might record for 1 hour and a half and have an hour of footage or less because of the travel time. So, on some level, my pursuit to playing as many video games as possible also kind of leads to me to try to consume video games faster, to not let them savor. But at the same time, as I'm traveling from point A to point B, like, this isn't like when you play Fallout 3 or any of the Fallout games from Fallout 3 and after, and actually probably some of the originals, like Fallout 1 and 2, you would get a destination and you'd go to your overworld map and you could go to that destination. But as you're going across to that destination, you'll say, hey, what's this over here on the map? In Fallout 3, you'll be walking to your destination and you'll be like, hey, what's that over there? What's that marker on the compass? And then you'll be walking to that other destination and you'll say, hey, what's this other destination on my compass? And it's just a never-ending spiral of as you're constantly being pulled from one location to another location as you explore the wasteland. And I feel as though Death Stranding does not have that as strongly. Because everything is as spread out as it is. Everything is as distant as it is. It's extremely rare that you'll be walking along and you'll see something that is not part of the primary path. The only reason why I found a camp in the mountains was because I decided, hey, let's just try to cross the mountains for some reason. And there it was, and nothing was there. I was rewarded that time with nothing. Maybe there will be something one day? Maybe there will never be anything in that spot? But I feel like that's also kind of something that enables me to want to move from point A to point B in the most efficient manner. And to be fair, isn't that the gameplay loop itself? Is to move from point A to point B in the most efficient manner? Next time we've got some more emails, maybe some more interesting beverages. But for now, good night, folks.